Hello and welcome to the possibly last assignment or the next to last assignment. And this is what I have done for you. This is actually the vector poster that I am going to somewhat demo for you. I don't need to demo on this one how to draw all the shapes, but how to get the shapes and how to solve your shapes is basically what I'm going to help you with. But this is my interpretation of the vector poster. Okay, I want to bring something over here that was from the other classes, and I want you to see what the other interpretation is of the other instructors. So this is something that they had done, and I wanted you to see, or actually one of the instructors had done, and I wanted you to see in this that they had their color swatches, they had their original reference photo on this, they had the logo here, and they had their I can't think of the word. They had their influence all around them. Okay, so in their final composite, they used all of these elements. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. I wanted you to see, as we begin this assignment, the actual Illustrator assignment. So I'm going to put this on my other screen, and I'm going to double click from a folder here, my folder, my assignment. So here is my poster with all of my swatches, and I wanted you to know where I got my influence from. Where did it come from? So in my art here, I had my Star Wars logo, I had Leia, which was a piece of artwork that I had done in Adobe Photoshop, and I had the space background. So I wanted you to see the original photo that I had used to do, or to find Leia's shapes, okay, and the space background that I had used and the logo that I had used. But before I do that, I wanted you to see this folder here that I'm going to bring over to the screen that shows other vector posters, and you are totally advised to just type in vector posters just to see some of these images that I had found. So I'm going to click to the images here, and you can see that there's a myriad of images. Well, I've placed some of those images into a folder which I'm going to put on Canvas for you, or you can just go look at these images. Look at how some of these are very stylized. Some of them try to achieve realism. Some of them, as you go through all of this, use real images, and then for instance, that is definitely from a real image here that artist wanted to use in order to stylize the artwork inside the image, which is basically what I did with Leia. But again, this is based on your creativity. So I don't mind basically anything that you can come up with, aside from maybe making it too simple, like one of these here. What I think you should do is learn how to solve shapes, because Illustrator is used in so many ways in this industry. So please, I'm not going to go through this a lot, but just Google vector posters. Now, I'm going to move this over to the other screen, and these are the vector posters that I had found, that I had found again for you, and you're welcome to go through them, and you're welcome to see how these artists solve different shapes. There is another Star Wars theme here. There is, of course, Mario and Luigi. There's Nightmare Before Elm Street. There is the Visit Ice Kingdom, the Land of Ooh and Always Frosty, and there is a cool one from I believe the Panda movie, Kung Fu Panda, and there is another one from the science fiction of Star Trek. So there's a third or second Star Wars movie, and there's one from Toy Story. So you are totally open to creativity on this one. So that's why I don't want to demo this whole thing for you from start to finish, because you know pretty much how to draw shapes. I'm going to come back to this and show you how I utilized my template layer. So I'm going to turn on my reference layer on top here, and that is a cutout that I actually assembled right there in Photoshop. So I want to go back and first now show you how let me zoom into that so you can see. So this was the cutout, and that I let Photoshop determine my 4 or 5 or 6 values that Leia had in her body and in her face and in her hair. So I'm going to minimize this at the moment, and I'm going to go backwards here, and I want you to see where my first poster came from. This was Leia's original photo. This next one is what I turned her photo into. So this is my Princess Leia Star Wars poster that I did as an entry for the 20th celebration, the 20th year celebration for Star Wars. Okay. And so I'm going to use this one to grab my images off of. So I had my original, you're not going to have that. You're going to utilize something else. And I'm going to show you 2 examples of taking something like this or something like this and creating cutouts, what we refer to as either posterized or cutout images in Photoshop, to help you as your reference layer. Okay, so I'm going to put those aside, and I'm going to open up, if I can remember where I put it, just wait for it to open up here, and let me hit the F button. And this is a folder that I had used to assemble my reference layers. So you can see what I did with Leia there. You can see how I actually cut out her image here. And I'm going to go through this, so don't panic. I'm going to show you how I did this, okay? So there is another one that I want to open up here in the folder to show you, if I can remember where I put it. It's one of these. It's Leia Only PSD. Okay, actually, it is, can't be that far away because I put everything inside of here. So let me make sure that I am giving you the right information. Let me go, I'm going to go back to Command tilde. Command tilde is the key above the tab key, so I can tab between files here. Again, this was my original poster, and this was my original background. So that is what I was looking for. And I'm going to put on all of my text layers. So there is my original poster. This is not to show you how I painted Leia in Photoshop. What this is to show you is how I'm going to use her image to create the cutout image. So I'm going to turn off the text. I'm going to turn off the space background, which I will show you how and what I used it for. And then I duplicated this layer and I turned off the mask. You see the mask I just clicked to right over here to the right? Well, I duplicated it for this layer down here, and I cut it out. So I'm going to redo that for you. So let me close the text layer. I want you to see what the cutout, I want you to see it a few times too, what the cutout filter looks like. So I am going to take this layer and duplicate it for you, just to show you what I did. Now I'm going to turn off the original and go to the copy, and right hand click on the mask and disable it or delete it, because I can do what I need to do when I get it into Illustrator to solve the shapes. But there is the way that I painted Leia, and then I used a mask to fade her out left, right, top, and bottom. Okay, and you don't have to remember any of that, but now watch what happens. So I'm going to take this again and duplicate it again because I never damage an original. So now let's go here and experiment with the cutout. Okay, the cutout filter. So we enter in Photoshop the cutout filter, and this is not the first time I'm going to do this. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do it 3 times with 3 different illustrations. Now when it first comes up, it might not show. You have to hit Command 0, not O, Command 0 for the image to actually show up. Now I'm already in the cutout button. You see the button up here? Click to the center button. Now I found out that the number of levels, let me zoom into her here, the number of levels looked good when it was 5. Okay, now if I go up to Edge Simplicity here, let me take this up to 6, and it's going to take a second, and then up to 8 or 7. And what I want you to do is when you open up your image, I want you to see, I want you to use your eyes to tell you what is best. Now, when I go up to 8, look at how it really distorts the image. Now that's the number of cutout levels. So I'm going to go back down to 5. I'm going to reduce the edge simplicity here and make it a little bit less or a little bit more, depending on how I want my edges to be. The farther I go up in edge simplicity, the more simple it gets. That kind of makes sense. So you can solve your image, and watch how I solve the dog cutout and watch how I solve the Wonder Woman cutout for my own benefit here. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at 5. And now I'm going to use my artist license to draw this image. I like how some of this was solved here. Let me go down to 4 and see what I've got. I actually liked, I'm sorry, I meant 4 on the levels. So I'm going to just play the game of, I actually like the way her face was solved here, right here. I like the way her nose was solved. I like the way that even her hand was solved on some of these shapes here on 4 versus 5. So long story short, I actually like 5 too, but you know, it lost the white of her eye, so I have to put that in. Kind of misinterpreted the shine on her hand, but hey, I'm the artist, I can fix that. So I'm going to say okay on this one. So now there is the one that I'm actually going to save as a JPEG and bring it into Photoshop. So I would go to Save As, and I would save this one, I'm sorry, File, Save As, and I'd save this one as my Leia image. Now let me turn off Leia and show you what I did with the space background. So here was my space background for the poster. So what I wanted to do was to do a cutout on it. Now I went to 4 colors on the cutout. I even went to 5 colors, but I got rid of this white when I got into when I saved it as a JPEG. So I'll just quickly show you, but I'll hit cancel. I'm going to take this original space thing and I'm going to enter the filter gallery. Don't enter it again here or else automatically do what it's doing. You have to enter the filter gallery and then again hit Command 0 and then again wait for it to do its thing. Now this is 5 cutouts. Let's go to 4 cutouts. Give it a second to update. And that was fine too. And let's go to the edge simplicity higher. You can see how it gets rid of some of the neat stuff that was in the background, or edge simplicity back towards less simplicity. And then I liked how that was, so I just simply said okay. Now let me Command Z back because that was my space background, because I had already done that here. Now let me have a white canvas and open up my lettering. So let's say that you wanted to do the lettering that wherever you got the lettering from. Now I only want to work on the Star Wars logo, okay, just the logo. So what I did here was I took the logo that I had painted. Now here is the one that I had painted. So this was my Photoshop example of the logo. I duplicated it, brought it into the filter, and turned it into this because I just simply chose 4 colors. Okay, so that's cool. So all you'd have to do is click that right there. And I don't, sometimes it turns out different every single time, so you just have to, again, hit Command 0, and now that was 4 colors, so you can see how it's exactly the same. So I saved that as a separate JPEG. I actually saved it as a PNG file so that it got rid of the background. So now I had all 3 of those. Okay, so let me hit Command W, and I won't save this, and then I won't save her. And I will go back into my Illustrator file. If I have to, I'll pause stuff to do stuff here. But look at, now the composite is, there's my logo. Okay, I actually just used it and I converted it into, and I want to show you that in a little bit. I actually took the logo from Photoshop and I converted it into vector paths in Illustrator. I've shown you that before, but I'm going to show it to you again. Now let me turn off Leia and show you the space background. See how I got rid of the white dot in the middle? So every time I open up one of these things, you're always going to see 2 things. You're going to see the original one here, the linked file that I had from Photoshop. I never damage an original. So what I did was I actually duplicated this linked file right here. And so I'll do it again. Now to turn it into a vector poster, it's the only thing on this whole file right now other than the color swatches. So I'm going to leave it selected. You see it? Let me move this layer palette over slightly. See how I have the button selected for this? Let me zoom in a little bit. Let's go to image trace right here. Now in image trace, I'm going to choose 4 colors. So let's turn it into color. Where do you get image trace from first? It's under Window, Image Trace. Okay. Now let's turn it into color. And now it gives you about 30 choices, which is way too much. Let's go to 4. You may get a window to come up in a second once I hit trace to say, hey, this is very complex. Do you want me to continue? And it just did that. It says this is complex. So I'm going to say, okay, go ahead and continue. So now you're going to see this actually go through a progression here. It's going to pixel cluster everything. It's going to finally figure out how many of the 4 colors it wants to keep. And I'm just going to let it do its thing. And I'll talk while it's going. So then I can actually choose to convert what is going to be a single image. It's still kind of like Illustrator doesn't know if you want it to actually turn into individual paths. Now I want you to look over here. See how it's an image tracing image now? It's not really a bunch of groups. Look at how this group here from the original is tons of paths. Well, right now Illustrator doesn't know if you want it to be paths, because I can't go in and grab this yellow path or this next to yellow path or the blue path or the dark blue path. I can't do that yet. So what I have to do, and you can remember this part of the movie when you bring in your background, which I'll probably do again for you in this little movie, is leave it selected and go to Object, Expand. And when you expand it, you can expand the fills and the strokes and say, okay, now look what it did. It now actually turned everything into a separate shape. So I'm going to click the Direct Selection tool. Now let's say that you liked every single shape that was in there. You're allowed to go in and change colors if you want, but I'm going to show you how to select the entire color palette the way you want it. Look, I'm going to select this one right here. Okay, now by selecting this one here, it didn't select all these little ones. So if you want to alter the color of something, simply select one of them. I'll even select this little one right here, right up here. Okay, right there. Let me change this to a blue so you can see it selected right there. So go to Select, Same, Fill Color, and it'll select all the colors. Now that's kind of cool because all you got to do is double click this fill here and you can change it to anything you want. If you want it more yellow, less yellow, brighter yellow, whatever. So I'll just make it slightly brighter yellow and boom. Now we have actually a brighter yellow back there. And it selected them all at one time. Okay, so now that's pretty cool because now I could put Leia in front of that and I could actually now do the same thing with the Star Wars logo. So when I brought it in, I actually image traced it. So let me turn off the space background and Leia and let's zoom into the Star Wars logo. Again, when I open it up, can you see how I have my original linked file locked and hidden? So let's turn off the other stuff. Now I wanted the actual Star Wars logo. So when you want to go find a logo, it's like a 95-98% a surety that you're going to be able to find the logo if you go to here. So I'm going to add another one of these and I'm going to go Brands, B-R-A-N-D-S, of the world. And you can see how you get the logos. Now I'm going to click Brands of the world. These are logos from all over the world. Now I want the Star Wars logo. So let's go Star Wars. Since I already did it, it's right there. Now search. I want vector logos. And look. There's my Star Wars logo. Now when I click that, I get an EPS file. That's actually a set of paths. It's vector paths. So when I did that, it downloaded to my desktop. And then I simply went in, let me minimize this, and now here is the Star Wars logo. If I can find it right there, there's the EPS logo. Now I'm going to right hand click and open with Illustrator. So here's the Star Wars logo right there. This is what I didn't do this. This is what they did. This is what they gave me. Now there's always a white background behind things. So I'm going to click that white background thing and be careful if you eliminate it because it's part of the group here. Okay, but in this case, if when you hit delete, because I don't want this white background back here, like if I were to copy this whole thing, Command C, and bring it into my own, let me turn this off. I need to turn off my own logo here. And then I want to turn on the space background to show you something. If I hit Command V to paste, I'm going to get a white background. Well, I don't want that white background. If the paths aren't everywhere, like you see here, simply go up to Object and Expand. And then it will expand it so that everything's a separate path. Now, if I click away from this, I have to make sure the space logo, the space is locked. I'm going to click this background here. Whoops, it actually came into there. So I'm going to move this logo up and out of that space background for a moment and lock the space background. Now I can click on this outer box. I'm going to hit delete. Okay, look at how now I have my Star Wars. Okay, and I went to Brands of the World and I got it. So I'll throw away this group now because I don't need it. Now, this is what I did with the logo. I took the linked file again and I image traced it to that. Now, I'm sorry, to this. That's not what I did. And then I realized that there were holes inside of it. You see the holes that are here and here? Well, what I did was I took this black one right here and I duplicated it and I put it directly underneath this one, which is offset. Okay? And I colored it this color. So first I put that color so that any of the holes that were in this one didn't show through. Now let me zoom in and let me move the image trace window out of the way and the transform window out of the way. Okay, so now look what happens if I turn off this. You're going to see holes inside of it. So, you know, nothing's ever perfect. Okay, we're still talking about preparation for this assignment. Okay. And I haven't even told you about the size of the board, which is 8 by 10. So I'm going to now set up two posters for you. I wanted you to hear all of the stuff that you have to prepare before you even do anything. Since I'm in this one, I'll show you before I even drew anything. Let me turn off the space background, and here is Leia. That's my solution for Leia. Okay, but before I had that solution, I actually brought in the Photoshop file. So here on the bottom layer is my Photoshop file that I did when I went to the Cutout Filter. And I also put in, look, I'm going to open up this layer. I also put in this little picture off to this side so I could see the solution for this. Now let's do the same thing for Wonder Woman. Okay, so I'm going to close this, and I'm not going to save this file at the moment. And I'm going to close this and not save this one. It always comes to my other screen, I'm sorry, and not save this one. So now let's prepare Wonder Woman. First, okay, Wonder Woman, then the Golden Retriever, and then you prepare yours. Okay, so here's how we do it. We double click this, and we never damage an original. Now I opened up my JPEG. You should right hand click and open your JPEG that you brought to your screen and open it in Photoshop. Okay, so now I have a Photoshop file of Wonder Woman. I'm going to duplicate the background layer by dragging it into the new layer icon. As you can see, let me make this come up a little bit like that. Okay, now, so I don't want to damage the original, I want to damage a copy, right? Right. Okay, so I'm going to click to the move tool, not the crop tool, and I'm going to enter now the filter. So let's enter the filter gallery and let's see what she turns out like. Now that's 4 levels of her. Let's see what 5 levels turns out like. I think that's pretty good. Let's go edge simplicity up to 4. Okay, up to 1 more. Nope. Actually, that looks pretty cool too. See, that's more stylized. If you go less edge simplicity, then you're getting more real. Now, if I go down to 2, that's pretty cool, but I don't want all of this fuzzy stuff on her head, so I would do what I did with Leia. I smoothed out some of these. This is not perfect. This is just something to help you solve where the lights and darks go. Does that make sense? Okay, this is not your vector poster. This is a reference piece. So I'll say okay on that one. So now I would bring this in. I'm going to save it as my reference for Wonder Woman. So let's go Wonder Woman reference. Now I don't know what the image size is. So I know that my Illustrator file, which for this Wonder Woman should be more, not 8 by 10, it should be 10 by 8, 10 being the width. Okay, I don't care if you do that, that's fine with me. If yours is more horizontal than vertical. So I've saved my poster. You know what, I don't know if I saved it as a JPEG. I didn't. I saved it as a PSD file. You probably saw that, didn't you? So I'm going to now save it as a JPEG. It's okay if I saved it as a PSD. It's just extra stuff. And I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to go on the JPEG. So this is still the PSD. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go find Wonder Woman right here. You see the Wonder Woman file we just created? Let's double click it or right hand click and open with Photoshop and make sure the size is good. Okay, so we want not to have such a huge file. So I'm going to go to image and image size. I'll do the same thing with the dog. And now this is 10 by 8 at 150. That's pretty good. That's already good. If it was 20 or 30, I would make it down to about 10. In fact, let's go to 10 on the width exactly. That's perfect. It's almost 10 by 8 right now. So let's just say OK and save the file and close it. OK, now let's open up the Golden Retriever. Now let's take the Golden Retriever and duplicate the layer. So if you wanted to make a stylized poster for whatever you want, find good reference. And now let's go hit the F key, Brian, to expand it to full screen. And then I want to crop him. I don't want this to be such a wide thing. So I'm going to hit the C key. And I'm going to crop him down to about here and to about here, because that's how I want my poster to be. Okay. Now I did that on the original, so I should never damage an original, so I'm going to go to Save As and go number 2. Because I don't want to damage the original. Never damage an original. That's why I duplicate a layer, so I don't damage the original layer as well. So let's go to Filter and go into Filter Gallery, and let's zoom in. And now I actually like number 5 still. I mean, you can try less or more. I like number 5. Actually, number 5 is better than even 6. And if I go to Edge Simplicity, you can see it's going to get kind of weird. It's going to get kind of weird. So you have to play what makes sense to you. I actually like 2 on this one. And I want to retain some of these neat little fur shapes here. So I'm going to say OK. Now I would save this. I don't want that white shape on the bottom. So if I'm going to use the same background, which I don't have to do, I would get rid of that white shape on the bottom. Anyway, so now we save this as a JPEG. And let's go now, and I'm going to bring the Golden Retriever number 2 into Photoshop, but I am going to check the size first. So let's make sure he's the right size. So let's go to Image and Image Size. And it's already pretty good. Let's go a height of 10. And it's already to 9.3. Maybe that's fine. And I'll just say OK. And then I'll fit it into, I'm going to actually up the resolution to 150. OK, so I can draw better. 72 is just a little bit too grainy. So let's go like this. Remember, this is just a reference layer. So now let me save this as the JPEG again. See, I made the I made a mistake with you just now. I changed the PSD file, so I'm actually going to close this and not save it. So I'm going to hit Command W, and I'm not going to save this. I made a mistake. I apologize. So I'm going to go into the Golden Retriever 2 JPEG, and I'm going to check the size of it. Okay, so let's now go to the JPEG and check the image size. Again, I'm going to make this to 10. So you should close your PSD and open up your JPEG when you do this. And now I'm making it good. Now I'll just hit Command S to save and close it. Now let's open up a blank file in Illustrator. Okay, so let's go Command N. And in this one, I'm going to make a file of 8 on the, I'll do Wonder Woman first. 10. The height is 8. We're going to work in CMYK, okay, and one artboard. So I create. Now, I'm going to make my panel options bigger so you can see my icons a little bit better. And I'm going to call this reference. Okay, now I'm going to leave it selected. Let's zoom out a little bit so you can see everything. And now we're going to place in place. And we're going to make sure it's linked. So I'm going to go back to where my images are, which I put into the vector poster folder here. And let's now go open up the cutout images. And here is my Wonder Woman JPEG that I wanted to use as my cutout. So I say place, but make sure link is clicked. Hit place. So now let's place her in here, hitting the E key. Now, this is where I like things to be transformed. Okay, so I'm going to leave her out here. I'm going to go to the transform menu, and I want to put her in the middle of this. Now, you know to show your rulers is Command R, as in Robert. Just wanted you to see that if this is 10, then on the X coordinate, she should be at 5. If this is 8, then on the Y coordinate, she should be at 4. Okay, that's really good. But now I don't want her that big, so I'm going to double click this in the scale. Make sure Scale, Strokes, and Effects is selected. It won't affect anything here, but I just want you to make sure that is clicked. And let's go to about 90%. And I think she looks good right there. So I'm going to say, okay, that's my good reference image. Just like I put Leia's reference image there. And I'm going to do the background exactly the way that the background was done here. And there are ways in Illustrator to actually use different things to actually grab different colors, just like in Photoshop. Okay, there's a magic wand tool. And we can use the magic wand to grab this whole shape right here, and we can now turn it into a path. We don't have to draw it. We can turn it into a path. So this reference layer now should also be duplicated. So I'm going to duplicate it, and then just like the other files that you've worked on, I'm going to call it Clicky this semester, and I'm going to leave it both of them locked, and on the top is Clicky, on the bottom is reference. So now I'm going to put a new layer between the two of them. I'll double click and make it something I can see pretty well. Cyan is, I think, going to be pretty good. Maybe, maybe not. And I'm going to call this art layer. So my art's going to go in the art layer. Everything else is locked up. Now this is where I start to draw. Okay, this is where you have to go in, and now you have to interpret the layers. I'll show you what I did with Leia, but you have to draw, and it can be overwhelming, but just take your time to draw the shapes knowing something. Okay, in this one, I'm going to show you in Leia, but in this one, the majority of the big color on her face, to me, isn't the light area, because I can count 1, 2, 3 light areas on her face. It's the dark. So I would come into her face just like this, all right, and I would draw it just like I'm doing, all right, smooth out all the bumps. I don't think Wonder Woman wants to have a little pot-marked face here. And then I would probably use, when I go do this arm thing here, I'm actually going to put it over the face because it's a smaller shape, but look at how I'm actually going to draw the face like this, all the way around and underneath her little emblem on her head, and just come right over to here. Now let me fix my drawing right there, and look at the very first shape I've drawn is this dark value. So that would be the first value on her face. Okay, I'm going to kind of show you what I'm doing here. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to say face 1. Now look, I'm going to look at the Clicky Copy is on. Do you see it? The Clicky Copy is on. If I turn it off, you're going to see a white shape with a dark stroke. So I'm removing the stroke. I'm clicking the fill. I'm turning the Clicky Copy on. See how cool that is? Hit the eyedropper and grab the color. Now look what I've got. I've got that color. Okay, I'll lock up the first one. Now let me turn on the Clicky Copy, and let's draw the next one. Let's say the next one you want to draw this shape. So I'll come in here, Mr. Sorio, and I'll draw this shape as good as I can, but I'll smooth it out because I don't want her to have little bumpy things on her face. And I'm going to smooth it out using my drawing ability that you have practiced all semester long. And look at how I'm going to solve this shape. Remember, you're the artist. You can do two things. You can trust the shapes and you can edit the shapes. So look at how I'm going to start with this shape, and now let's color this shape. Look at how I can edit that shape. Let's automatically hit the eyedropper. Look how easy this is, and click that color. Now look what we've got. We've got that shape now colored on top of the face shape. So now I've actually started to draw Wonder Woman's shapes. Watch how I can turn off the bottom reference layer. It's locked, fine. And I can turn on the top reference layer. Do you see how I've started to draw her shapes out? Okay, let me save this as Wonder Woman, my name, which is what I want you to do, and Wonder Woman Vector 1. I'm just going to say 1. So save it and save it. Now let's go get the dog started. So you can see here how you can actually do things. Okay, I probably should do this later, but I'm going to do it now just really quick. Okay, I've got her face started, so you can see here how I have the face here and here. Now, if I wanted to, I could shift click both of these circles and hit Command G. Now I've grouped them, and I can call this face group. So see how I can continue to draw inside face group here? I'm going to close that. Now I'm going to click the art layer, and I'm going to grab this color in the background just to show you how the magic wand works. So let's click the magic wand and click. We have to click to one of the layers where I have to click on the layer where I'm actually grabbing from. Okay, so let's click on the image. You got to lock it up later. Okay, so let's grab the magic wand and let's see if we can actually grab that color. Let me see what I'm doing wrong here. All right, the magic wand probably wasn't the best tool to use to grab this yellow with. I want you to see what the magic wand actually does. If you have shapes that are all over your area, you can actually use the magic wand to select the overall shape, and then it will select other shapes that are in the same venue or in the same color. The way to actually, there's so many ways to do the same thing in Photoshop and Illustrator. I want to show you a quick way, if this is indeed going to be quick, to grab the colors in the background if you like those paths. But you're going to have to copy and paste from one layer to the next once I'm going to show you what I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's say, I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but you can see how I actually advised you to draw the face shapes. Okay, for the time being, I unlocked the clicky layer, which I never unlock unless I want to do something with it. So I'm going to turn off the face shapes and go duplicate this linked file. Notice I'm duplicating that file and I'm clicking on it again. Now, I want to convert this to an image trace. So I'm going to, and it's going to take a minute probably. So I'm going to go back to image trace, wherever I put the window. Here it is, right here. And I'm going to again tell it to be color. Okay. And I'm going to take the colors to maybe to do these simple backgrounds, including all the colors in her face. It's going to image trace the entire picture. You're just going to go grab, copy, and paste things. Okay, so let's just try somewhere around 8 colors. I want to see what it does if I image trace 8. And I'm going to get that window to come up, and it's going to say, well, it actually didn't say it was going to have a hard time. So let me just image trace that whole thing just to get the background. This is not to get Wonder Woman. I have to go to more colors. Okay, so let me go to about 12 colors because I didn't like what it did over here. So let me uncheck preview. Now let's check preview. Oh, I'm sorry, it was over here doing it on my other window. I should move that over here and show you. Now, by changing it to 12 colors, it got the shapes I wanted. Okay, now we have to go in and be, let me move the image trace window over. So you can see up here it says image trace. You got to do the same thing I did before, okay, which is to expand it. Now that I've got it expanded, see that? I want these shapes over here to come with me. So I want these shapes in the background. So you can do a number of things here. All right, I can actually click with the magic wand to grab all those shapes. Look at how quickly it grabbed all of those shapes. That's what the magic wand is good for in Illustrator. Now all I have to do to those shapes is make a folder underneath everything, which I'm going to do, a layer. I'm going to call it background. Look, I'm putting it right here, and I'm putting it right down here. So I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to close the face group and put it underneath, and I'm going to call it background. I realize that this is probably not the right timing on this, but this is all right. You're getting the idea of what I need you to do. Now I'm going to move those or copy and paste them right into the background layer. So I'm going to hit Command C. Now, if I click, I have to test something. There is something called Paste Remembers Layers. I don't want it selected. I do not want it selected. Okay. I want it not selected. I'm going to hit Command F, which is to paste in place. So I've now done that. Now I want to move this dot down into the background layer. Now when I turn off the Clicky Copy, do you see how I have that shape there? Okay, let's do it for a couple more shapes. So let's go into the group. Let's use the magic wand. Look, I'm clicking on the group. It's unlocked. I'm going to grab this orange. Now with the magic wand, you see how it grabbed all the orange. Now all I have to do is hit Command C and Command F and move the little square down into the background layer. Now if I turn off Clicky, you see how I have that. Now let's keep on going. All I have to do is click up to the group and click the magic wand on this color. Same thing. Command C and Command F. Now move it down into the background layer. Now see if it's there. So now we have things that we need. Now you can continue to do that. You've got to use the things that Illustrator gives you. I'm grabbing this brown. Now it grabbed it all over her head. I don't want any of those shapes. I only want this brown over here, so maybe I should switch to the direct selection tool and grab that color right there. Now, you either grab it like that or you grab it with the magic wand and you grab all of it, but then you have to be the one to go into the background layer and delete out what you want. That's part of what Illustrator is. So I'll go Command C and Command F so it pastes directly in front. I'll move that little square down to the background layer and close the Clicky Copy. Now, again, we have things we probably don't want in there. So I'm going to use the direct selection tool and marquee all this stuff right here. See it? Delete. I don't want any of this. Delete. Whoops, I just deleted something I didn't want to delete. So now I'm going to grab some of it right here. If I hold, I need to say something. If I'm in the A key and hold the group tool, that means the Option or Alt key, I can actually marquee part of something and it'll grab the rest of the part of something. So now I can delete out that stuff. So you don't know how many times I went into my file and deleted out stuff I didn't want when I used this. I did it quite a bit. Okay, so see how we're starting to grab the shapes of what we want? Let's now go do the dog picture so I can show you how to set it up, and then you can start drawing then too. So I'll save this one and I'll close this one. Now the dog picture, we already got the picture ready for it, was the Golden Retriever JPEG. It's right there, you can see it. Okay, let's open up Illustrator. Let's open up a brand new file, and this one is going to be 8 by 10. And then I want you to spend some time with me in my file, letting me show you what I actually drew. Again, let me go to paste I'm sorry, I didn't want that on. Let me go to Panel Options, and let's go to the large so you can see my layers. Again, what did I name this one? This one is Reference. Now, let's bring in File Place, make sure Link is selected, and let's bring in the dog. Make sure this is the right one, and it is. Let's double click it, put it in there. Again, let's use the Transform palette to put it in the right place. Now, if the X center, I'm hitting Command R, if the center of the X ruler is 4, then just simply put in 4. Make sure the center proxy is selected, 4 tab. Okay, that's good. And let's go to 5 on the tab. Now I have him centered. Now, let's shrink him. So let's double click the scale tool, and this time let's go to 85%. A little bit smaller. So let's go, and now don't, the neat thing about when you use the scale tool, or the unneat thing about it, is you think that it remembered that you went to 85%. No. Every time you go into the scale tool, it assumes the picture it's looking at is at 100%, even if you shrunk it already. So we want to shrink it a little bit more, so I'm going to go to 95%. Okay, so it went from 85. Illustrator thinks it's 100%, so I'm going to 5% smaller. Do you see what I'm saying? So now I want to go 5 more percent, so I'll leave it at 95% and go here. There, I like it. It's good. Save the file. Let's go to Sorial _ golden retriever. I always spell retriever wrong. IEVER. Retrieve ever. That's how I have to say it. And there. And fine. And now, what do you remember? Let's go to now duplicate this and name the upper one Clicky. You should always have an upper one. Lock them both. And now the middle layer is going to be art. And then inside there, you can start drawing. Now, remember, I see the overall shape of this dog. I see it as a big shape of this middle color. Because these light areas here, they're just indeed that. They're smaller shapes. So you have a choice. You could go do the entire dog in the dark brown. You could do the entire dog in the middle brown. Because I think if you try to do the whole dog in the lighter color, it would be a lot of drawing. And it's going to be a lot of drawing anyway. But what you have to do is to start your process of drawing. Now, you have to fix the eyes and look at the reference. So it wouldn't be a bad idea right now in the bottom or upper reference layer, whatever one you want, or in its own layer. I put it in my bottom layer, but I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to actually bring in the dog picture. So here is the pic. So I'm going to leave it selected. Look at how I'm leaving it selected. Let's go into File, Place, and bring in the dog picture, the real dog picture. Well, that's not the dog. This is the dog. Okay, so I want the dog. So I'm going to double click it, put it here. Now I want to shrink it, so I'm hitting the E key, holding the Shift key. Let me make it smaller and put it off to the side. Now, let me actually move the pic above the Clicky Copy. Okay, let me make it slightly bigger by holding the Shift key. You got to hold the Shift key. Now, do you see how there's stuff here to the left and right that I really don't want? Inside the dog pic, I can create a clipping mask. So if I hit the M key, look at how I can give this a really tight little rectangle. Now look at how the rectangle is above the linked file. If you shift click both of them and go to Object, Clipping Mask, and Make, you now have a cool picture. See? Now let's take the clipping group and hit the E key. Don't grab the middle, but just grab it somewhere and put it near your picture. So I think that you should have the influence of the real picture near you to solve your shapes. Sometimes to help you solve the color. Okay, and you can see that that eye is pretty cool. And that's going to help you solve, when you're looking at it, what happened to, well, let me move this over, to that eye. So now you can see that's not supposed to be brown in here. It's not the color of his fur. It's actually the color of the eye. Okay, so that's what I say. And make sure you always lock up everything but the layer you're working in. All right. So now I think it's time to go open up Leia's picture and go into the art and start just talking about, and it's not going to take long, maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes of me talking is going to show you how I did it. It took me about 4 hours to 5 hours to solve all of her shapes. So I'm going to hit Command S here. Let's close this. And now I have made an Illustrator file right here for Golden Retriever. I've made a Wonder Woman file if I want to do a vector poster of Wonder Woman. Here is my vector poster of Leia. Now, I want to have you do a nice color swatch here, but I'm going to turn off stuff so we can just concentrate on Leia. So let's go turn off the logo. Let's turn off the space background. Let's go into here and turn off the border. And let's just start in on Leia's face. Now, watch when I turn on the reference layer. There's what there's what the cutout filter gave me of Leia. This is what I turned it into. So why don't you go into my folder? I'm giving you this file, and you can see how I solved the shapes. I actually went in with the pen and I actually drew this whole brown area. So you see how the brown area turned out really cool, but I actually drew it. You see down here, it's in this one right there. So I'm going to open up that layer. Let me close the skin highlights. I actually had more highlights in here. I turned them off because I didn't like them. But these three layers, you see how I didn't like those highlights actually, so I turned them off. I didn't get rid of them. I just, less is more, and I just wanted to minimize it. So look at how I added the white of the eyes. Do you see I even named it eye whites? See? So this is kind of what the reference layer gave me. I cleaned up the eye whites. See how I went in and I actually, let me turn them on and then I'll flip on the Clicky Copy. All right, I didn't even name mine Clicky Copy. That's terrible. So here's my Clicky. Sorry about that. So I'm going to now turn on my Clicky Copy. See how I've cleaned up things and I've made the lines a little bit more clean? Well, that's what you have to do. You have to take the time to draw and then figure out what it is you want to draw. Meaning, watch this big brown shape that I drew. Look at how the big brown shape was this shape right here. I'm going to click, let me move the layer palette over so I can get to the radial button. But look at how I drew that really accurately. Look at how I took the time using my reference layer as my influence, okay, as my guide. That's the word I was searching for before. These are your guides. So you can see how I drew all the way around that whole thing. See how my brown goes all the way up to the top? Okay, so I took the time to solve these shapes. I realized that I could do a big brown shape. Okay, look at how the braids are simply small shapes on top of the brown shapes. And I actually did the hair like this. Look at how simple that actually was. Here's what the Clicky Copy said, and I just went in there and drew these little brown shapes. So if I take the A key and I click there, look at how that's just a bunch of brown shapes right there. That's all that is. And that's what I drew. How long did that take me? About half an hour. And then I drew all of these little braid shapes, using that as my influence right there. So I took the time, eliminated a lot of the shapes, and I just drew. I just had some fun and I drew. I don't know, I consider this fun. So solving the shapes, your shapes are pretty much solved, but I would never want this to be as harsh on the edge as what Photoshop did in the Cutout Filter. So examine my file. Turn things off and on. Remember that if you see small shapes like this one and this one and this one and that one, they're probably in a layer all by themselves. Let me find that layer. See how I even called it light skin? Look, if I turn off the light skin, I'll turn it off and on. Well, that's just a shape. If I turn that off and on, or off, look at how I have, I actually have a copy of that. I have to throw that one away. That was just me. Now I have a medium skin value. So there's my medium skin value. So I have, I'm sorry, that was my overall skin. here is my light skin, and here is the darker skin. So I have several shapes that make up the darker shapes. Okay, so I wanted this many shapes to make up the skin. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I wanted this many shapes to make up the hair. I have 3. I have 3 colors to make up the arm, her clothing, her shirt, blouse, whatever you want to call it. Then the lips actually turned into 3 different colors. Okay, so there's my lips. Here is my space swatches. So I used those when I actually did the space. And here are my, oops, that shouldn't be named space swatches. That should be named, what did I do? Oh, lettering. That should be, I'm glad I saw this. That should be named logo. And I'll save it. That's an error that you caught, that I caught, that I should have caught. So I'm going to have to resave my PDF file. So there is the solution that I had for Leia. There's the solution I did for the background, and you can go back and forth and see how I did that one. Remember, on the background, if I turn off Leia, I'm not going to go through it again, I'm just turning her off. On the background, I bet you inside of this, I actually have the original linked file. Look, there it is. Now all I did, I have to click away from something. I'm going to sneeze just a second. Okay, my sneeze is all gone. I have the linked file here. That's actually the image. So what I did was I image traced it. And then once I image traced it, I went to Object Expand to get all my shapes. Then I just made my space background stuff from there. So there's my space background, which I'm going to lock up because I don't want to touch it anymore. Here's my Leia image. Here is my logo. And remember, I went to Brands of the World to get that nice clean Star Wars logo for the background. And then I put a little border on top of her like this so that looked good. So there is my solution. Remember that yours can be anything. It can be any kind of stylized solution. Let me bring this back over and click back. Let me go back into the vector poster folder and let me click back to the vector poster here, and let me now show you the different things that people have done in the past for their vector posters. Okay, I want you to try to have fun on this. Obviously, you can use more colors, you can use less colors, but I think that you should have this in your portfolio and actually have some fun with it. Okay, so I'll let you know if this is the last, before the tear sheet, if this is the last one of the semester. I want to go backwards for a second, and I want to open up the assignment list and tell you again. Oh, it's on my screen over here, sorry. And I'm going to go backwards. All right, I did want the neon clock finished. Okay, before I had the vector poster, I've sent out several emails that said go from guide 8 right into the neon clock. Doesn't matter if you do the neon clock first and then the vector poster second. I mean, you know, next to last and last. I don't care which one, 2 you do last, but here's the one I'm talking about. This infographic, I'm not sure that this one is totally needed. I know that right now you know how to do it. I know that you can type and that you can make shapes and put all this together. It's really not that big a deal. Do you get a lot of jobs like this in the industry? The answer is yes. Should you know how to do it? The answer is yes. So you may find this tutorial on YouTube. Obviously, there's no assets that you have to download. Everything comes from your imagination and your typing skills. So I think you should continue, but I think to finish the vector poster is pretty important, and you learn so many things about how to transform shapes in doing the neon clock. So examine my own poster. Go in there and break it apart if you want. Okay? It's pretty fun to do this one. So again, I think that I have gotten you off on a pretty good foot for doing this one. I think I've gotten you off on a fairly decent foot for understanding how to do this one, especially, let me bring that up. All right. So there is some fun that you can have with this. As I said before, her shapes are not well solved, and I think you need to go in on whatever poster you're doing and solve your shapes and clean them up. Remembering that less is more. Remembering that when I went into mine, this is how she looked. This is my interpretation. Okay? So hopefully this movie is enough, and I look forward to seeing your vector posters. Take care, and I'll see you in the next assignment.